So in my last video, I talked about what I have found to be every writer's worst fear, which is that what other people think of my stuff, what other people think of my writing, of my story, is more important than what I think of it. And it's such an insidious thought. It's such a weirdly practical thought, in a way, caring this much about what other people think of our stuff. Because like I said, you've got to have a career. You got to have somebody like it. And what's more, once you start doing this seriously, whether you're in an MFA program or you've decided to write and publish your stuff on Amazon, or you've got yourself an agent, you're trying to get an agent, or you're publishing regularly with a New York publishing house, you will spend a lot of time hearing about what people think your stuff. If you're working with an editor, they're going to tell you, your agent's going to tell you, your readers are going to tell you, your critique group is going to tell you. There's just a lot of time, and you're going to worry, what's the reviews? I remember talking to this author, he was a kind of a big deal literary author, and he had a book coming out, and oh my God, he was so terrified, waiting to hear what the reviewers were going to say about the book. Oh, like his whole life was going to begin or end when those reviewers at the New York Times or whatever told him about what they thought of his book. It is just exhausting. But like I said, it seems practical. Why wouldn't you care? Why wouldn't you care? But the problem with that thought is twofold. The first is, if that really matters more, if what other people think of your stuff matters more than what you think of your stuff, in a way that means you don't even matter. You, the author, because their opinion, the reader, those other people matters more than yours. So you don't even matter. And on some level, that is a thought that haunts writers because you're putting your stuff out there. You're putting your book, if you get your book published, it could be right next. My first book got shelved right next to Stephen King's because that's where our names fell. And your book has to belong on a shelf next to whoever. You have to belong out there. Your voice deserves to be heard as much as anybody else. But quietly, there's a thought that many authors wrestle with. Well, what if I don't matter? Who wants to hear from me? And that thought, other people's opinion mattering more than yours, well, that just solidifies it. And all this time and attention is, tell me it's good enough, tell me it deserves to get published. I get it, I've been there, I've lived it. But I have a theory, and it's this. I don't think anyone who creates stuff actually cares what anyone thinks of their stuff. What do you think of that? I know you think you do. But in your heart, the reality is, I don't think you care. And the reason I know this is because if you're a writer, particularly creative writer, I know you've had this experience where you've gone down the rabbit hole, where you've lost track of time, where if you're writing fiction, the characters start talking to you or doing surprising things. The story goes a direction you didn't expect it to go. You feel as if you're carried along by a current. You're chasing the story. You're not inventing it all. It doesn't always go this way, I understand. But it's called the flow. And when you're in it, when you're really moving along, when you're following that story, the one thought you never have is, I wonder what people think of my stuff. And if you do, you're out of the flow. Boom. When it's going well, you don't care. When you're finished writing, then you might care. In other words, you might write the thing and say, oh, this is great. Oh, I'm loving it. Oh, this story's so cool. I'm following on. You're writing and writing. And then you put it down. You kind of come up out of the dream state. And then you start thinking about the readers and the publishers and blah, 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 blah. But when you're doing it, you don't care. You care about the story. And here's the thing. Whatever you're really interested in, the things you're really interested in, this kind of story you want to tell, you can't stop being interested in it just because other people aren't interested in it. It doesn't work that way. You can't will your desire in one place or another. Your curiosity has its own direction, and you just have to abide by it. So you can't stop it anyway. You can try to drink it down and take drugs or do whatever to keep yourself from still liking what you like, but you can't stop liking what you like. You can't stop being who you are, because what you like is who you are. At the end of the day, whether people like what you like doesn't actually affect whether you like it or not. So as a writer, your job is to embrace it. But it's a practice. It's a practice, people. You practice focusing on the story and not on other people every day. It's what I do, and I hope it's what you can do. if you know to practice it. As always, I do these every week. If you don't want to miss a little advice and inspiration, click subscribe. And if you like it, let your voice be heard. Click like. Until next time, stay fearless.